So let's dive into a story about power and compassion. It's about a kingdom that was literally forged in fear and how one single, simple act of kindness threatened to bring the whole thing crashing down. This is the story of two men, the King of Iron and the Servant of Mercy.
And this right here is the chilling idea that runs the entire kingdom. Seriously, this isn't just some saying on a wall, it's the law. It's the promise and the threat that's basically carved into the stone of the castle itself.
The man behind this rule? That would be King Varun. He's the ruler of Ashara, a kingdom where, even the mountains look as sharp as broken swords. In this place, fear isn't just a tactic for control, it's practically an inheritance, passed down from one generation to the next.
But see, King Varun wasn't just born this way. His cruelty, it was forged in a really traumatic event. When he was just a boy, he watched his own father get assassinated by his most trusted advisors. That one event taught him a brutal lesson. Trust will get you killed, and mercy is a fatal flaw.
So into this world of iron and fear steps our second character, Arav. And this is where the central conflict is set up perfectly. On one side, you have a king whose entire philosophy is built on punishment. And on the other, you have a young servant boy, an orphan because of the king's own harsh policies, whose instinct isn't revenge, but kindness.
Their two worlds collide in, of all places, the Hall of Judgments, a room basically stained by executions. A little sparrow gets trapped inside, and Arav, the servant, he just stops his work to gently guide it out. But the very moment the bird flies free, the king himself appears, demanding to know why he stopped his duties for something so insignificant. Arav's answer is just one word, but it changes everything. He says, mercy.
And that single word, mercy, it just hangs in the air. It's like a challenge. The king, he doesn't see a kind boy, he sees a threat. Because in his world, mercy isn't just a foolish idea, it's a poison. It's something that can rot a kingdom from the inside out.
So, you'd think he'd execute him on the spot, right? Nope. Instead, Varun makes Arav his personal servant. And this isn't a reward, it's more like a test. But Arav's quiet, steady silence starts to really eat at the king. It's not defiance, it's not fear, it's just presence. And that uncertainty unnerves Varun more than any open rebellion ever could.
And you can see that Arav's presence is starting to have an effect. The king's whole routine starts to change. He gets restless, he seems lost in thought. He even starts asking Arav these big philosophical questions, like, can fear really keep a kingdom alive? You can almost see the cracks in his iron will starting to form.
But the real turning point comes when Varun finally asks about Arav's past. He finds out that Arav is from a village that was destroyed by the crown's own policies. The boy is a direct victim of the king's rule. And yet, there's no hatred in him. And for Varun, a man who built his entire life on the idea of revenge, this is completely incomprehensible.
Well, all of this internal conflict is about to spill out into the open. Varun is back in his element, the Hall of Judgments. A man is brought before him, and his crime? Stealing food for hungry children. The law is crystal clear. Death. But as Varun stands up to give the sentence, he hesitates. He glances across the hall and sees Arav. Just watch.
And then he does the unthinkable. He says the word exile. Not death, exile. The court just erupts in whispers. This isn't just a verdict, it's a huge public signal. The unshakable, merciless King Varun has just shown mercy. The very foundation of his rule has just been cracked, for everyone to see. Later, the king confronts Arav. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand why the servant looks sad, not relieved. From Varun's perspective, he'd shown mercy, he'd done a good thing, so he asks him, why were you sad? He lives. And Arav's reply just redefines the entire situation. Sparing one man, he explains, doesn't solve the actual problem. The children are still starving. His words hit Varun harder than any sword could. True responsibility isn't just about punishment, it's about fixing what is actually within your power to change. So this new perspective gets put to the test almost immediately. A real rebellion starts forming, led by a woman named Mira, who's organizing the starving people. When she gets captured, Arav breaks his silence completely. He actually steps forward to defend her. He tells the king, to his face, cruelty leads to despair. He's not just a silent influence anymore, he's an active advisor.
That night, you can tell the king is haunted by his past, and he confesses his deepest fear.
If I stop being cruel, they will kill me. And Arav's response? Well, it's the ultimate challenge. He doesn't offer safety. He offers a whole new vision for what a king could be, not one based on just surviving, but on being worthy of loyalty.
This all leads to the final confrontation. The rebel, Mira, is brought before the throne. The entire court is just waiting for the death sentence. But Varun doesn't look at his generals or his executioner. He looks at Arav. They exchange this single, silent nod. And with that shared understanding, the king gives the command, release her.
The backlash is immediate, and it is severe. The old guard, represented by the high general, they see this act of mercy not as strength, but as a fatal weakness. To them, Arav isn't an advisor. He's a poison that's destroying the king, and with him, the stability of the entire kingdom.
And so, the old law strikes back. An assassin, loyal to the old ways of fear and iron, attacks. But the target isn't the king. It's the source of his perceived weakness. Arav is fatally wounded while protecting the very ideals he inspired. As he's lying there, dying in the king's arms, Arav doesn't ask for vengeance. All he asks is that the king choose the path forward, wisely.
And in that moment, holding the servant who changed him, King Varun finally, completely breaks. But the sound that comes out of him, it isn't the familiar rage of the cruel king. It's the grief of a man who has lost someone he truly valued. And in that one scream, the king of iron dies, and something new, something totally undefined, is born from all that pain.
Which really just leaves us with a final question to think about. For years, King Varun carried a crown made of iron, but in the end, the heaviest burden he ever felt was a single tear of grief. So what, then, is the true weight of power?